Hello, my name is Ed. Okay, we're going to have another trade review. This is going to be Wildcats version 3.0 brand building, written by Joe Casey and art by Dustin Nguyen and Richard Friend. Okay, so let's go backwards a little bit. The original version of Wildcats, Wildcats Volume 1, came out from Image in the early 90s by Jim Lee and Brandon Choi. And the original premise of that comic was it was still a pretty much a solid, I don't want to say typical superhero comic, but you're dealing with familiar archetypes and themes and things like that. The premise was you had this group of superheroes and alien hybrids fighting these evil aliens who are on Earth. And the thing is, most people on Earth didn't know that the aliens were here and the aliens could possess normal people's bodies and so on and so forth. And so that's why you got the original title was Wild Cats, but it was Wild C period A period T period S for Wild Covert Action Teams. The second volume or the revamp came along roughly around 99, 2000, something like that. It was written by Scott Lobdell. And the idea was that the war between the Wildcats and the Damonites was over. And that series wasn't so much about the heroes all coming together to fight evil as a team as it much was about picking up where their separate lives were. So we'd pick in for an issue here or there with this character, then we pick up over here with these two other characters who are doing something different, then we pick up with these other two characters that are some in another place, and going forward from there. I think I have like the first, I don't know, 5 or 6 issues of that particular volume, and that's pretty much all I read of that volume. At some point towards the end of that run, Joe Casey took over, and then they canceled it, and then they started the third volume, which is what this first trade collects. From here, they Joe Casey takes the concept even a little bit further. The characters, or I say the main characters, will start with a character named Jack Marlowe. Jack Marlowe actually used to be a character called Spartan, who's this kind of alien android powerhouse type character. But here he's not calling himself Marlowe anymore. Like I said, he's calling himself Jack Marlowe, and he's running this multinational corporation called the Halo Corporation. And his thing is, of course, he still wants to save the world and everything, but he wants to do it in kind of a different way. It's not just having superhero fights and things like that. He wants to actually improve the lives of people living in the world. So he's making products that people can actually use and providing them at a cheaper price. There's these fake ads for like batteries and things like that that the Halo Corporation puts out that you see in the comic. His employees, at least so far in this volume, don't seem to know that he's an android. They just think he's kind of odd, but they're kind of like, well, okay, he's the boss, and they just sort of go along with it. Now, having said that, there's still the science fiction elements in it. There's still the action parts. Jack Marlowe is working with Grifter, who was part of the previous team. Grifter is this kind of ex special forces, black ops type guy, and he's still running missions for Jack Marlowe. When we first see him in this comic, he's basically just destroyed this factory that was using children as slave labor. And there's a kind of amusing scene where Grifter actually lets the kids who were working in the factory beat up the factory owner, and the factory owner's kind of crying about it. He's like, "Oh, I only do these things because you Americans want cheap goods." Um, there's another interesting character called Mr. Wax. Mr. Wax is a field agent for the National Park Service, kind of an NSA type corporation. And what has happened is he's been demoted for some reason. He's been assigned desk work, but he takes a job working for Marlowe because that at least gets him into the field, which is where he really wants to be. And he kind of has this sort of latent hypnosis power that not too many people seem to know about. And there's some interesting things done with that. The next really interesting character is Cece Rendozo, who's this kind of crime boss type person. You get the feeling that she mostly deals with illicit goods and services and things like that, and lots of information brokering and whatnot. And basically, the story we get in the first volume here is these different characters kind of coming together and sort of working together, but at the same time, everybody's really got their own agenda. There's a pretty funny part in it, I think, where they're kind of watching this safe house with this family that's kind of this stereotypical Leave It to Beaver Brady Bunch upper middle class suburban family, but of course, things aren't what they seem, and it turns into a big crazy, I probably shouldn't give too much away, but some interesting things happen with that. As far as the story is concerned, I actually liked it. I think it's a pretty interesting take on the whole superhero thing, trying to push it into a different direction. It really feels it feels a little bit more like an espionage type comic more than a traditional superhero comic, even though, like I said, the action is still there and there's still science fiction-y elements there. But really, the whole subtext is really about, corporate America, conspiracies, secret societies, and things like that. The art by Dustin Nguyen is actually pretty good. He has a really clean, kind of crisp style, semi-cartoony, but not overly so. And I think it really works. I like his storytelling approach is actually pretty solid. You don't have a problem following what's happening in any given scene. I like the fact that he's able to make all the characters look different and unique and whatnot. So yeah, the comic as a whole, not super stupendous, not super groundbreaking, but I think you did get a lot of interesting ideas. And like I said, I think it's a very interesting, a different type of take on traditional superheroics. So that's it. I got to thank you very much for listening, and you have a good day.